All right, what is good, ladies and gentlemen, is the Master Reviewer back again with another review, and tonight we are doing a review for Toy Story. Yeah, it's a Pixar classic. It is a pseudo rewatch for me. It's mostly a rewatch, but I did not remember certain details from the movie, so I'll just call it a rewatch. Yeah, I have seen this film before, and yeah, I don't really have any background to give other than that. It's in preparation, I guess, for a review recommendation, and so let us just begin, starting off with the plot. So the plot of the film is that there is this boy, Andy. He's a kid, he loves playing with toys, and so he has his favorite toy, which is Woody, but he ends up having a birthday party where he gets a new toy, Buzz Lightyear, and so Woody, along with some of the other toys, mainly Woody being Andy's favorite toy, he ends up feeling threatened basically by Buzz Lightyear. He starts getting jealous about the fact that he has become Andy's new favorite toy, and so it leads to Woody, he tries to kind of get rid of Buzz by just knocking him over the bed into like just an area that is like next to the bed where that's like kind of hard to access toys, like maybe just under toys that fall under the bed kind of, and so, but it ends up leading to Woody accidentally kind of indirectly knocking over Buzz out of the house, and so everyone now thinks that Woody tried to get rid of Buzz, which he did kind of, but not in the way that it ended up going down. So the rest of the film ends up becoming Woody has to save Buzz now, while like Andy goes to a pizza place with his mom, and so Woody ends up getting taken because Andy can't find Buzz. Buzz ends up going along to the pizza place. He ends up following the car, and so Woody and Buzz, they are now together, and but then Buzz like the whole movie, he's very obsessed with thinking that he is a space ranger. He does not realize he is a toy yet, so he ends up going to he tries to find like a way to make it back to his home planet basically. So it does lead to Woody and Buzz, they end up getting stranded in a gas station, so now they have to kind of work together in order to get back to Andy's house, where up until this point it's like mainly Woody kind of having to manipulate Buzz into making him think that they are going to find a spaceship for him to return home to. So they end up going to the pizza planet place that Andy went with his mom and sister, and so while they're there, they end up in a vending machine, and there is this kid, Sid, that was introduced earlier, where he is this kid that is very much creative, we'll say, with how he plays with his toys. He is very reckless and stuff, and I'll speak about him when I get a bit into the characters a bit more, but yeah, he ends up basically getting Woody and Buzz, they end up in a vending machine. Sid plays the vending machine game. He ends up getting them, and so Woody and Buzz are now in Sid's house, where he is planning to use a firework that he ordered online in order to blow up either Buzz or Woody. And so, yeah, at this point, this is around the time of the movie where Buzz ends up realizing that he is not actually a space ranger, he is a real toy, and so he kind of goes through a midlife crisis with that realization. He tries to fly, he realizes he can't and stuff, so now he just becomes very depressed. Woody ends up having a heart-to-heart with him, basically saying how even though he's a toy, he's still great, he's actually a much better toy than most toys and stuff, and a lot of toys would be lucky to be him, basically. So this kind of gets Buzz out of his gets him out of his funk, basically. Gets him motivated back to returning to Andy's house. So now Woody and Buzz, they are on the same page, they're good with each other. I think at some point Woody tried to, like, while Buzz was depressed, Woody managed to contact the other toys from Andy's house, but none of that, like, they all still believe that he kind of murdered Buzz. So Woody and Buzz, they are now trying to escape together, but then it gets to the morning, and so Sid wakes up and he plans to launch Buzz on the rocket, basically. So Woody ends up working with a bunch of the toy inventions, the science projects of Sid, basically, and so he works together with all these, I don't know how to describe them, dilapidated toys, basically, these abomination toys that Sid ended up making, and so he ends up working with them in order to traumatize Sid as well as save Buzz. So that ends up happening. But at the time, I forgot to mention this, but Andy's family is moving away, so Andy is very upset because he can't find either Woody or Buzz, and they are moving. So by the time Woody and Buzz escape from Sid's house, they end up having to go on a chase for both the moving van and Andy's car. So that goes on. That's like the final act of the film, where there is a chase that goes on. One of the toy cars ends up getting involved. Yeah, I'm not going to describe all the specifics, but basically a chase ends up happening, and it culminates with Woody and Buzz flying on a rocket to get to Andy's car, where they end up back in the box that Andy originally was going to place them all. They end up back with Andy, basically. So yeah, then the film kind of ends. It's Christmas now, and so Andy is getting some more new toys, and so it's a throwback to the start of the film where the toys, they sent the soldiers down at the start of the film to spy on Andy during his birthday to see what new toys he is getting that could possibly threaten them, I guess. And so there's a throwback now, and the film ends with Andy. He ended up getting a puppy. So yeah, that is how the film ends. And so overall, I would give the plot of the film, I would say probably I'm going to go with 3 to 5. It's not anything. It's pretty simple, I would say. I think this is not the most original concept. Although, I mean, this did come out in like 1998, but it's the classic, like very much, there's the popular person, but then there's the new kid on the block, I guess, that shows up that threatens the popular person's standing, and so classic kind of jealousy story, basically. So yeah, it's fine. It worked, I would say. The aspect of it being toys, I think it's pretty original, I guess. And so overall, I would say it was an alright plot, not one of my favorites, but I still will just give it a 3 to 5. In terms of the characters, so I think that I want to talk about Sid, because Sid I do have thoughts on. A lot of people do not like Sid, where he is very much a... No, sorry, it's the opposite, actually. People, I feel like, are a bit too forgiving, where they basically say, like, oh, he was just a kid. He was, like, very creative and stuff and inventive. Number one, he was, like, a pretty bad sibling. Like, he very much did bully his sister, which automatically, that's, like... And it didn't feel like very classic sibling rivalry. It felt pretty mean-spirited, where he was kind of destroying her toys and stuff, so didn't like that. And I don't know, I feel like most kids, like, even if they're kind of reckless and stuff, I feel like most kids don't just have access to dynamite or fireworks and stuff, so I feel like that is a bit being overlooked. Like, he is definitely very acting in dangerous, reckless ways, so I'm not going to be as forgiving as a lot of other people are. So I don't think the traumatization was warranted, though, so that felt like a bit much, where the toys, they just, like, I don't know, they break their creed where they're not supposed to, like, move in front of humans to traumatize Sid, and I guess it was for the sake of saving Buzz, but at the same time, it did feel a bit harsh. I do think, apparently, I didn't know this, but he is in Toy Story 3, he does make a cameo as a garbage man, which I did not realize, but... So yeah, I'm pretty sure in that scene he is, like, happy and stuff, so I don't think he's, like, permanently traumatized, which is good, I guess. But anyway, besides him, there is Andy, who is just kind of regular kid, likes playing with toys, nothing really too interesting about him in this film, I would say. Woody, I think that he was good as this toy. He is kind of like the de facto leader of Andy's toys, and he feels threatened by Buzz, which I think was pretty good. I like the interactions between them, I would say. Buzz himself was also very good. The aspect of him actually thinking that he is a space ranger, and then when he ultimately has the midlife crisis, realizing that he is a toy, I think it was done pretty well, where he does, like, the realization of him seeing the commercial with himself, realizing that he is not a toy, and then he kind of, like, starts going crazy over it, kind of like leaning into an aspect, like I think Sid's sister ends up, like, finding him and then plays with him and then turns him into Mrs. Niblet, something like that. I forgot the name, Norbit, something along those lines. So Nibset, something like that. I don't remember the name, but so he ends up starting to lean into that, and so I think that was pretty funny. And so yeah, and then ultimately when Woody has the heart-to-heart to him, I think that he was just a very good character, very good arc, I would say, from the entire film. So I did like Buzz a lot. The rest of the toys, I thought they were fine. They had some good moments here and there, but I don't like them towards the end, because at the end it's like they believe that Woody's a murderer, fine. So it's like, yeah, but I don't know, just we know that Woody is, like, not completely in the wrong, and so even when it's also partially like Woody's fault, like when he does end up getting to the van to get the RC cart to save Buzz, for some reason he doesn't tell the toys. It's like, hey, I'm doing this to save Buzz. You could see him over there. It's like he just, like, kind of ignores them. Like, he even opens the box with them. He throws them to the side, and then he just continues looking for the RC car. But even so, I don't know, the other toys, they just felt like kind of more jerk-like towards the end of the film, where they say, like, good riddance, you murderer, and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, they believe that he's in the wrong, but at the same time, it's like they still feel pretty harsh towards him. So yeah, and that is, honestly, yeah, there's not really too many characters in the film. So overall, I would give the characters probably I'm thinking a 6.5, I'll say. Good characters, I would say, yeah. In terms of the settings, pretty basic settings. There is, Andy's room is pretty iconic, I would say. It does feel like a pretty iconic location at this point. Besides that, there is the Pizza Planet, which I would say is fine. There is, I don't really know what else, just more of Andy and Sid's house, I guess, and the street that the final chase sequence happens on. Overall, I will give the settings, like, I'll go 5.5. I think it's decent. It's not great, I would say, but yeah. In terms of the visuals, now this is the first CGI animated film, full, like, theatrical animated film to ever release. And so this is definitely, like, we got to give it some grace, because it is the first film to ever do 3D CGI animation. And so, but surprisingly, it doesn't even look that dated. I would say that A Bug's Life looks more dated than this, to be honest. It does hold up decently well, I would say, actually. So yeah, definitely it's not like A Bug's Life or Ants, which are recent animated films from the late 90s that I reviewed, where it does feel like definitely the art style does not really hold up too well in the modern sense. However, this film, I will say, it does age decently gracefully, I'll say, so I will give the visuals probably I'll go like it's not great though, it's fine, I'll give it like I don't know. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be harsh. I'm just gonna give it a 5.5. I'm gonna say it's decent because even so, like definitely the humans, especially, like it's noticeable. With the toys, it's like less so, but with like Sid, Andy, any of the actual humans, it's like it does look a bit off-putting. The toys themselves look fine though, so I'm just gonna go 5.5. I'm gonna say decent visuals. In terms of the comedy, this was surprising. It's actually a lot funnier than I remember it being. A lot of the line deliveries were really good, and there were just not even necessarily like jokes and stuff, but just a lot of the interactions between characters and the line deliveries. There were probably a few good jokes here and there, but overall, I'm going to give the comedy. I'm going to say I'm going to be a bit harsh. I'm going to give it just a 7 out of 10. I'm going to say it was pretty good comedy. But yeah, there were definitely some moments that I was laughing out loud. And just, again, a lot of good line deliveries from the voice actors. So props to the voice actors. In terms of the worst thing, I will say that the worst thing was probably just like, I feel like the aspect in between when Andy and once they're like setting up the conflict of like Andy, he ends up getting taken to the pizza planet, and Buzz, like you're in between when Andy takes Woody to Pizza Planet till they actually get to Pizza Planet, where it's like they're just kind of setting up the conflict. Like probably like when they're at the gas station, I felt like the gas station aspect part of the movie felt the most boring in my opinion. So I would give that part like I don't know, I'll give it like a 5 out of 10. It wasn't like terrible, but it was my least favorite part, I would say. I'm sure there were still some good lines during it, so I'm not gonna say I hated it, but I'll just give it like a 5 out of 10. I would say for the gas station scene, because it felt I don't know, when I look back at the entire film, it feels the most boring in my opinion. So in terms of the best thing I will probably say, honestly, maybe just Buzz's character. I really liked Buzz's character and how they handle himself. I also did like the comedy once again. So I think Buzz's aspect, though, I'm going to give probably Buzz's arc. I would give probably I'm just going to go a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it pretty good, so that way I can also reuse the comedy score. So I can go, best thing is the comedy and Buzz's arc. I would say both a 7 out of 10, both pretty good, I would say. And yeah, that is all these scores. Let me see any extra notes I did not already mention. I already mentioned everything up until this point, so I'm going to do the calculations. So King Crimson. All right, so it ends up coming out to about a 6 out of 10, which would be above average, but I think I'd give it higher than that. I think I'd probably give it a 6.5. I think it was good. Definitely from what I remember from the Toy Story films, I always loved the second one and the third one. Those were my favorite in the franchise. The first one, I never really, I always knew it was like a fine film, but I never really loved it as much as the second and third one. The fourth one, I don't have the most positive views on it, but hopefully on rewatch it will be better. So yeah, I went into this kind of expecting like it'll probably be fine, but it's probably not going to be as good as the second and third one. And I think that'll probably be the case. I am more excited, I would say, for the second and third film to rewatch those. And yeah, but overall, I would still say this is a good film, I would say. So definitely a 6.5. And so yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any recommendations, any shows, movies, video game stories, anime, manga, web series, anything that you want me to review, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. With that said, that is pretty much all there is to it, so let's leave it at that.